friends, Palomore here, and before I jump into the video today, I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys ever get bored of your mount? Because I did, and let me show you what I did in my spare time. Anyways, let's test this bad boy out. Ah, much better.
Alright guys, now that I have a better mount, we can talk about today's video, and today's video is going to be kind of broad, but we're going to be focusing on changes to playing Sub-Rogue after the hard nerfs that happened this past Tuesday. The video is going to go over talent changes that I've gone with, conduits, in kind of general burst opener rotations. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Alright guys, welcome back to another video. So, first thing you might notice when you look at my character is one thing that's really obvious, and you're probably wondering why I did this. So I can tell you right now, I transmogged the Santa outfit because it's December, and the Christmas clothes become available. Anyways though, in today's video I want to talk about a bunch of stuff to do with Sub-Rogue. Since the nerf, I've been getting a lot of comments, a lot of people are really worried, and a lot of people are freaking out. The first thing that I want to clear up right off the bat with Sub-Rogue in general is that I think a lot of people really have a big misconception of how Sub-Rogue works. For the most part, Sub-Rogues should not be topping damage. You see, I get this comment a lot. People are saying, I can't do damage, whatever. That's kind of always been Sub-Rogue. The playstyle of Sub-Rogue is very hit and run. We have very high DPS burst windows, but then outside of those windows of damage, we've never really done a ton of damage, and we never really should. Sub-Rogue is a lot of, using your utility, setting up a lot of cross CC, and then, stunning the kill target, and using as much damage as possible, and then running. Like, that is basically the playstyle of Sub-Rogue. I just want to get that out there because I think a lot of people have this idea in their head that there's supposed to be some warrior or some unholy DK that's just absolutely pumping damage the whole arena. That is not the case for Sub-Rogues. I am sorry. Okay, so let's jump into talent changes. I want to talk about a couple things. So first off, if you're unfamiliar with the nerfs, I'd watch my last video or go look at the blue post so you know what I'm going to be talking about. But I'm just going to jump right into my changes. So the first thing I'm changing with talents is something in the very top tier. And I think that pre-med is really valuable, and I think it's great getting Slice and Dice and the bonus points. But honestly, after losing the burst that we get off Echoing Reprimand and a bit of damage to things like Cold Blood and Shadow Blades, I think that going Weapon Master and relying a bit on those RNG hits can actually really help spike our burst windows. This is probably a minor change in the big picture, but I definitely think that this is helping out a lot more. The second thing I want to talk about is that Night Stalker is nerfed in PvP from 12% to 8% damage. So this brought me back to maybe playing Subterfuge and Dark Shadow, because now Dark Shadow is much more beneficial. Instead of 15% increased damage from Dark Shadow, where this was 12, this was 8% now, and then now this is 15. So it's a much bigger difference. But in reality, after testing it and playing with it a lot, I really think 2 Shadow Dances is far too valuable. There's no reason to go Dark Shadow. So I would definitely just stay with the nerfed Night Stalker, unfortunately. Although I have sometimes tried playing some really cheesy, really high damage, double damage talent builds, and they haven't worked out super well, but that's something that we could see in the future, who knows. But to wrap this part up, this is basically what I'm doing with talents. I think everything else is still fine. This row is interchangeable. Looking at the honor talents really quick, one specifically that I want to talk about, obviously Cold Blood got nerfed a lot. It now scales off of versatility, which is kind of weird because it's a percentage-based ability. If you look at Greater Pyroblast from BFA, that also was a percentage-based ability, but it didn't scale off of versatility. It's just kind of weird. Anyways, this is a bit less valuable. I still think it's great to grab, but one that I've been looking into that will actually synergize with this opener I'm going to show you guys is maybe actually playing around Dagger in the Dark. Something I want to talk about with this talent really quickly is that it's not extremely reliable. This only works if you have, some downtime before your opener. For example, my friend and I have been playing a ton of double rogue in 2v2, and every single time that we reset and we open, we're able to stack this up to 10 times. We get a ton of value out of it. If you're playing Battlegrounds, you can get a lot of value out of this. If you're doing World PvP, you can get a ton of value. In a high-paced 3v3 arena match, This talent is probably close to useless in the big picture, so definitely keep that in mind. Another option, you could maybe even look into maneuverability as another option if they're playing against a team that has a lot of roots and kind of slows. The next thing I want to address is something that I've been asked a lot as well, and people are asking, are you staying Kyrian? And what I say to that is, let me call out my homie. Heck yeah, I am, okay? The main reason why I think Kyrian's good, Echoing Reprimand doing low damage or not, is the fact that as a rogue, we get the Phial of Serenity, and this thing, being able to cleanse diseases and poisons and curses, and bleeds, like, having this as a cooldown basically gives us a free dwarf stone form. I think it's, like, super, super OP. It's really good as a rogue for getting re-stealths, and with this alone, you could take Echoing Reprimand completely out of the game, and I'd probably stay Kyrian just for the Phial. This part's my opinion. But regardless, I still think Kyrian is going to be the best for PvP for now. I've always said that I think way down the road in the future, around Renown 30, when the game becomes a bit more about the tank meta again, like the end of BFA, people might start going Necrolord for Fleshcraft, the upgraded version of it at Renown 30. Now, I guess we can talk about changes to conduits. Clearly, I've been pumping away here. I have done a couple changes here. So, one big change is I am no longer playing Reverberation. And the reason for that, I basically was telling people to still use this because we use Echoing Reprimand within our burst rotation. So if we take this, we get more value out of it, even if it's less. But now I've created an opener where you don't actually use ER as a priority ability at all. So I really don't think it's that valuable anymore. Other options, you could go with Planned Execution. This gives you basically bonus crit with symbols. It lasts, I believe, it's not showing right now. I believe it lasts for 15 seconds the whole time that symbols is up. For 10 seconds, sorry. So this basically gives you a 33% of the time, you'll just have 5% more crit. So this is super, super valuable. But I'm actually trying a build with this one, Deeper Daggers. I believe you can get this from either Torghast or a World Quest or something like that. But basically, I want to talk about how this works and why it synergizes, but before I do that, let's talk about what I've chose to switch as well. The other thing I've done is I stopped playing Recuperator, which is the thing that gave you healing during Slice and Dice, and that's because I am no longer playing Premeditation. I don't use Slice and Dice as much in the middle of combat. It could still be good to run, but I think that for right now, I'm testing around, and this one specifically is actually very, very interesting. I've had some interactions where I've been in stealth, and basically I'll have a dot ticking on me, but since I'm running this endurance conduit, dots are actually not breaking me out of stealth because they're not hitting into my health, they're hitting into the shield. So that's something really cool to think about and try, guys. But anyways, yeah, let's talk about Deeper Daggers and how it's going to work. Alright, so looking at Deeper Daggers at a raw value, what does it do? It makes our Abyss and Black Powder increase our shadow damage dealt by a nice little chunk of 10% for 8 seconds. So the reason why I'm actually running with this is because, if you don't know, Find Weakness, if we use Cheap Shot or Shadow Strike, it will apply Find Weakness to our target. We bypass some of their armor. Really great. So when we have Find Weakness on our target, it makes our Eviscerate actually deal an additional 50% damage as Shadow. So the way these are going to stack up is, obviously you'll end up using Eviscerate, and it's just going to give us a nice damage chunk increase on our burst windows. I'll talk about more of it in a sec, but basically this is where the shadow damage is going to come from. Our target's going to have Find Weakness. We're going to do a big Eviscerate, and then it will do 50% more damage as Shadow. This is going to amplify that shadow damage. Not to mention, also Shadow Blades will get more damage benefit out of this as well. This is a little experimental. I might end up switching to Planned Execution, but that's what I'm doing for right now. So now we're going to talk about legendaries. First thing I want to say is that I went with Akari's, ranked it up to rank 2, and I was rocking it for a while. And I think Akari's was doing great. The damage wasn't really noticeable, but it definitely added up. And, I figured down the road, eventually the meta would change a bit, and the Vanish cooldown legendary would end up becoming by far the absolutely dominating legendary. And I didn't really believe in MA. I thought MA was a very gimmicky, very cheesy, 100% crit. It didn't seem realistic because the only time you could benefit from it was with stealth. But now, after the nerfs to ER, I really think Sub-Rogue Burst Window struggling a little bit, and I think MA, for the time being, is actually perfect to kind of fill in that slot and give us like a rebound of damage. So as you can see, I'm rocking MA on my bracers. Let me just say, if you're playing around your stealth, you can pull off some really big burst combos with this, even with a really crappy ER. For the time being, I think that this will probably be one of our better ones for PvP, but you need to make sure you're getting value out of it. Once again, if you're playing 3v3 and the enemy team is going to stop you from ever getting a re-stealth, this probably isn't going to be good at all. Alright guys, now we're going to get into the exciting stuff. We're going to talk about the actual opening burst rotation and how it's changed for me. So the first thing I want to talk about is one of the nerfs, obviously, was that Echoing Reprimand now gives a lot less of a mastery bonus. So this is something that I've taken into consideration with the damage nerf as well. This spell, basically guys, we need to start looking at this as a utility tool, okay? It does spell damage, it hits with arcane, so you can hit through a bop, it can be really unique for that. And the other way we can use this spell is for that nice little bit of damage. It costs very, very low energy, and obviously it gives us access to an anima point. So we got to play around the actual things that the spell gives us, not so much just the damage of it. The damage is okay, but it is far, far overwhelming from what people are still feeling about it. It is no longer the same spell whatsoever. So in terms of the mastery, I want to show you something really quick. This is not in PvP, so it won't be scaled down. But if I cast a Echoing Reprimand on the dummy, you can see my mastery is increased by 350. We go up to 75%. As soon as the buff falls off, it's down to 50%. I think in reality, this brings us to like 62 or 63%. So basically, I was telling people before, use ER in your burst. It'll still give you a mastery bonus, and then your eviscerates will benefit from that. Now that I've messed around with different builds, I actually completely disagree. I don't think ER should have anything to do with your burst window. I think that the mastery buff is both underwhelming as well as the damage, so get rid of it. So I want to go ahead and I want to keep a couple things in mind here. One is that we are using the MA Legendary because that is very important for this kind of opener and playstyle that I'm talking about. Without that, you won't have guaranteed crits on your eviscerates, which is a really big part of the damage. Secondly, optionally, you can change one of your talents. I'll go ahead and I'll pop off Shadowy Duel for Dagger in the Dark. And I just kind of want to show you guys the potential of how hard we can actually hit. And this little kind of trick that we came up with together on stream of how to hit very hard again. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to come up behind your target, and we're going to do basically our old rotation, except we're going to switch Echoing Reprimand out, and we're going to just throw in a Shadow Strike. But the Shadow Strike is going to be enhanced by 10 stacks of Dagger in the Dark, so it's going to have 100% increased damage. This is going to make it hit like a truck. So not only that, but also we are spec'd into Weapon Master. So if you get very lucky, you are going to hit extremely hard. I am talking like 16k to 20k within that range. Anyways, I'll go ahead and show you guys. So really quick, you're going to pre-pop Cold Blood. It's going to be a Shadow Blades cheap shot into your macro, okay? The macro is going to be this for your burst. It's symbols with Shadow Dance, Cold Blood, and your on-use PvP badge. Once you have all of this stuff rolling, you're going to Shadow Strike into an Eviscerate, Mark for Death, Eviscerate. With the crit legendary, this will guarantee that both your eviscerates crit, and you will absolutely overkill anybody. And let's talk about the rotation as well without Shadow Blades, because that was a question I got a lot. There's a couple ways you can approach this. For this one, you could maybe throw ER in, since you're going to have a lot less energy if you use 2 moves without the blades to help get the combo points. So an opener you could do without blades could be Cold Blood into a cheap shot, hit your macro into a Shadow Strike, Echoing Reprimand, Eviscerate, Mark for Death, Eviscerate. Something like that. But of course, that one uses 1 extra global, so you won't be able to perfectly follow your first cheap shot with a second. Anyways, let's show you guys how much damage this hits for, and hopefully you guys will be as surprised as I was. So we have Cold Blood up, we're going to Shadow Blades, and then pop our macro and Shadow Strike. And watch how hard this hits. Alright. Alright guys, as you can see, in that little 2-second example on the dummy, we hit just under 50k damage. And like I said, the eviscerates are going to pull through hard, doing 14.6k. And now this is what I really want to show you, is that extra shadow damage that we're getting from the Deeper Daggers Conduit and playing around that kind of find weakness with the opener. And then the Shadow Strike itself, hitting for 9.3k. So obviously, if you guys remember, Echoing Reprimand was hitting high up about this number, but keep in mind, guys, if you get lucky on some of these, your Weapon Master is going to literally double this. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead now, we'll do the opener without Shadow Blades. So once again, the only difference is where you would throw your first Eviscerate, you're actually just going to use Echoing Reprimand to get yourself up to 5 combo points, since you will have less, you're not using Shadow Blades. then you will eviscerate Mark for Death Eviscerate. I'm not 100% sure if you're able to squeeze the Mark for Death Eviscerate into the MA Legendary crit window. I think it might just overshoot by a little second, so that's unfortunate. It might be better to just eviscerate with 2 to 3 combo points guaranteed crit, then Mark for Death Eviscerate. But anyways, let's go ahead and show you this. Yeah, and it looks like I just was unable to squeeze it in there. Once again, not 100% sure, so we can maybe modify this. This one's about the same damage, but really important to remember for both of these, Cold Blood's not going to hit nearly as hard on a player. They kind of beat up the spell a bit, and obviously on a target dummy, Echoing Reprimand will not do nearly as much damage. This is going to be very minimal. It's going to be, 2 to 3k maybe. As for the Eviscerates, I may have got lucky in crit, but I think I missed the window. Anyways, guys, let's break down both of these openers in slow motion, and then we'll wrap this up. Alright guys, so for the Shadow Blades opener, you're going to pre-pop Cold Blood and Blades, then you're going to Cheap Shot, hit the macro into a Shadow Strike, Eviscerate, Mark for Death Eviscerate, and then you can follow that with another Cheap Shot into a Shadow Strike Eviscerate, or just Shadow Strike into a third Cheap Shot. If you don't have Shadow Blades, you can pre-pop Cold Blood, Cheap Shot into a macro Shadow Strike, and then Echoing Reprimand, Eviscerate, and as fast as you can, Mark for Death Eviscerate again, and if you do it really quick, you can fit it all into your 4-second MA window. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up the video today. I really hope I was able to help you. If you'd be interested, I live stream daily over at twitch.tv/iPalomore. I would really appreciate to see you come in there and say hi. If not, that's okay. I'm a loser anyways. I will catch you guys in the next video.